This is Karen Starks, date June 16th, 1980.
Good.
Okay. I want you to be sure to speak up as clearly and distinctly so that we can get everything. Okay? All right. First of all, can you tell me how many blacks approximately were in Muncie when you arrived?
I don't think I can answer that question, really.
Okay, in the community in which you lived, were there a lot of other blacks?
Yes, we lived in the same community that we're living in now, but it was an integrated community.
Okay. When did you come again? When did you come to Muncie?
1904.
1904. And when you say integrated, how many other blacks were living on the block that you lived on?
It was a small block that we lived in, and there were only perhaps one other house, because at that time, you see, this section was not built up very well. And I can only think of one other black who lived in that, because I think that was the only one in that section.
Do you remember what things you brought with you when you traveled to Muncie? Furnishings or household goods?
It's hard for me to say, because, you see, I was only 7 years old. And those kind of things did not really interest me very much.
Do you remember if your parents brought furniture, or if they bought furniture when they got here?
I think a small amount of furniture, but not a large amount of furniture.
And were there any persons that your parents knew when they came here?
Well, my father and another one of his friends, Mr. Edward Duval.
Okay, would you spell Duval for me?
D-U-V-A-L-L.
Okay.
They came to Muncie. I'm not sure whether they knew anyone here or not when they did come, but they learned that work was better here. There were more factories here than there were in Peru, Indiana, where they came from.
All right, I was asking you who was here when your parents arrived, and you had said that you didn't remember them knowing any persons here.
No.
But he came with Mr. Edward Duval.
Yes.
Okay, and Mr. Duval...
He came with us from Peru.
Did Mr. Duval bring his family also?
Yes.
Okay. And how did they travel here?
We came on train.
Okay. Do you feel that you were held back because of racial discrimination or race as far as getting a job once you started looking for work?
Well, really, I do not feel that I have been held back too much. I think if I made a mistake, it was my fault, and not theirs.
Okay.
Because I started attending Ball State, and they were very kind to me. In fact, the superintendent of schools
Do you remember
took
his
me.
name?
No, can't
Okay.
now. But he and another man took me to Marion to observe the schools in Marion, Indiana. And then you could teach after you had 2 years at Ball State. You could teach then. And I think they had it in mind that they were going to give me that privilege. But I was simple enough to decide to get married. I've always regretted it. But you do things that you should not do. And I've always regretted that I did that. Because they were very kind, very attentive. And they had never had a black teacher in the Muncie school system.
Before you started, they never had one black teacher?
No. And I really feel that they had that in their mind. Because they did give me quite a lot of attention. But I failed and I decided to marry, and it was a mistake. It was a great mistake.
Do you feel with the education that you had that you were able to get the same job that a white person with a similar education would be able to get?
At that time, I think I could have at that time. I feel that I could have.
Do you think that was the case for most blacks? With the same education, they could get the same type of jobs as white persons and also the same pay?
Well, I feel that it depends upon the person themselves. I still feel that much of it depends upon the individual themselves. I feel that...
so you're saying some could and some wouldn't?
Yes.
Okay. Did you get any training on your job which could help you get promoted or increase wages while you were working on any of your jobs?
Well, after I went to the nursery, I continued to take courses at Ball State in order to make a better job and have the job more successful. And I feel that it was a help to me. And even now, one of the women who was a professor at that time is a very good friend of mine now, Dr. Helen Sorensen.
Sorensen?
Yes.
Okay. And how do you spell Sorensen? S-O-R-N-S-O-N?
Yes.
Okay. Let me ask you, what type of work were you doing during the 20s? Or the 1920s? Were you teaching during the 1920s?
No.
What type of work were you doing?
No, I was doing domestic work then. Because you see, I had married, I had made the mistake and I had married, and I had this one child, and there was nothing else to do but to work and take care of him while he was young.
And even in those type of jobs, you felt that
after he became older, why then I tried to find other jobs, but I didn't mess with him as long as he was young.
Do you remember the names of the families you worked for?
Well, I worked for the Frank Pauls.
Frank Pauls?
Yes.
For how long?
Several years, I can't. And then later on, I worked for Mrs. Ball's daughter, Mrs. Bracken, A.M. Bracken.
Okay. What did you do if you wanted to get higher pay, more wages where you were working?
Well, I don't know anything special.
Now?
I can't think of anything special because they were both very kind to me.
Okay. Okay. What was the name of your school, the schools that you attended, and where were they located? Starting from grammar school?
You mean here in Muncie?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Longfellow.
Okay. Longfellow. Was that a high school?
No, when I started in Longfellow.
Longfellow was a grade school.
Grade school, yes.
Okay. And where was that located?
Here on the corner of Highland and Broadway.
Do you remember the principal's name there?
The what?
Principal's name there?
No.
Okay. All
I
right.
couldn't remember any of that.
What grades did Longfellow teach? From what grade?
Well, they started, I'm trying to think. I guess from the first grade through the 8th, because I think they had kindergarten across the street. There's a building across the street from Longfellow.
Did they give that a name?
No, I can't remember, but I think the kindergarten school is
Right across, directly across the street from
Yes,
Longfellow was the
yes.
place where you went to kindergarten. Okay, and after the 8th grade, where did you go?
Well, then we had to go out to what is Ball State now. It was called I think it was called Muncie Normal Institute, to take our high school work there because they were building the new high school that had been torn down.
Okay, so from the 8th grade until what grade did you graduate? At what grade did you
Well,
graduate?
see, I only attended there 2 years, and then I went to Louisville
Okay.
and attended the other 2 years.
Okay, so you went to Louisville, and this is Kentucky?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and you went there for 2 years?
Yes.
Okay. Can you describe your schools that you went to in terms of how many students were there?
No, I really.
Do you remember the size of the classrooms or the building or anything?
Describe that at all.
Were there many classrooms or just one or two?
Oh, yes, there were a number of classrooms,
Mm-hmm.
but just how many I really could not say.
5 or more or
What's
less?
that?
5 or more or less?
Something like that, yes, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It'll just be hard for me to remember now.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I intended to go downstairs, and I have a trunk downstairs that I think I have some material in. But you see, my brother had to have this operation last week, and I was with him even yesterday, and I just did not have time.
Okay. Was the school integrated?
No.
The school was not integrated? Okay. This was Longfellow and the Muncie Normal Institutes. Neither of them were integrated?
Yes, they were integrated.
They were integrated?
Yes, those schools were integrated, but the school in Louisville was not.
Oh, okay.
That's why my mother sent me there.
Oh.
She wanted me to go to a school that was not integrated.
Why?
Because she had been a teacher herself, and she felt that in the integrated schools you did not get the same attention, or you were not accepted as well in the integrated school as you are in a black school. She felt that, and I found that out too. I certainly, a lot of children today do not realize, do not feel the same way about it. But I found out that when you went into an all-black school, anything that went on in the school, you felt like you could take a part in it, and you could go as high as you wanted to and be just as important as you wanted to be, and so on. There was quite, while in integrated school, I guess it's within you that you feel like that they give certain privileges to the white students that you do not get. Now you had that feeling within yourself, and you wonder whether they give you the same grades that they give the other children for the work that you do. I mean, there's a difference in the feeling.
Did you feel that way?
Yes, I found that out. Yes, because when I was down to Louisville, why I felt that there was no one there that was any more important than I was.
Do you feel that you were exposed or had the same quality of books and teachers that were available in white schools?
We had very good teachers. And the teachers took really more interest in you. Then I would not want to go I would not want to go to an all-colored school, or if I had a child, I would not want to send that child the entire life. But I would want them to spend some time, because it did things for me. Then when I came back here, I could tell them in plain words, I don't feel that you're doing right to me, you know. It made it. I was very, very happy that she did that. I've always been very happy. It made a difference in my life entirely, and anything that comes up now, why I can feel and let the other fellow feel that they're not doing just fair. And it really did something to me that I know that I would not have had I not attended this school. I wouldn't give anything for those 2 years. I really wouldn't.
Were you ever, did you ever want to go to school and couldn't because you had to work?
Well, of course, when my husband and I separated, I would like to have just gone back to school and finish my degree out there, but I didn't feel like it was right to give my parents the responsibility of this child because he is handicapped. And I did not feel it was right to put all the responsibility on them. And so, for that reason, I didn't try to just go and spend all my time going to school, you know.
Were there many other blacks who wanted to go to school but couldn't because they had to support families or had to work?
Well, there were other blacks who were out there, and I don't know whether there were those who really wanted to go or not. I don't know about that. I think there were a lot of blacks who could have gone and just did not go. They did not make an attempt. I know I had friends that, just say, I don't care.
So what do you think most blacks felt about education? Did they see a need for education then?
Well, I think so now. Miss Boer, she and her sister both went out and took the 2-year course out there. But Miss Boer married. She did just like I did. Did the wrong thing. Married at the wrong time. But still, she's living with her husband and they're very happy. So that's a difference. At that age, you see, at that age, that's what girls and boys are thinking about.
At what age?
Is getting married. That's the most important thing to do at that particular age. Now it's different. because I think that the young people realize they must have an education. But at that time, you weren't given education too much of a thought.
Okay, what subjects did you study in school? Do you remember? What type of things did they teach you?
One thing, and I had that upstairs, and I haven't had time to go up and get it, because I was studying business education. That's what I was specialized.
Business education?
Yes.
Do you remember what textbooks you used, or
And that really helped me.
Mhm.
Yes, because I forgot I hadn't told you this part. When in my brother reminded me of that. 1924 and 1925, I was not in Muncie. I took James and went to Los Angeles. I had a cousin that my mother had raised, and she lived in Los Angeles. And so I went to Los Angeles, and I got a job there as a bookkeeper. And let me see, I think I left here in about July. See, it's been a very strange life. I left here in about July. I took James with me. And my mother and father, he's owned a grandchild. They were not happy about that. And later on that fall, my mother came out there and stayed all winter. In May, she brought him back with her. And I didn't see him for about almost a year. So then I got, in the middle of December, I'll never forget that, because it was so nice out there. And December, I received this letter, a telegram: come home at once. James is very sick. So I had to try to get my book straightened out so someone else could carry on, and catch the train and come on home.
Were there many other blacks that were working with you there?
It was a trucking company, and all of the drivers and everything were black.
Do you remember the name of us?
As well as I know. I'll have to think a little bit, because...
Were there any other black bookkeepers or secretaries?
No, I was the only bookkeeper there. And but these, it was a nice job for that time, because at that time, you only made $10 or $15 a week. They thought you were doing good. Well, they were paying me $25 a week. So I really felt good about it. And Wood has stayed, but I took him, when I came home, I took him back with me. And now they were not satisfied.
Your parents?
My parents. They just kept riding. If you haven't got sense enough to come home, put him on the train and care of a porter and let him come on to Chicago, and we'll meet him in Chicago. And they worried me, and they worried me. So I thought, oh, well, I'm just making the family unhappy. See, a small family. It was just my mother and father, and James, and my brother, and myself. Just a small family. And I thought, well, I'm making them so unhappy, and I wondered whether it was the right thing to do to make a family unhappy. So then I decided, well, I just bring him on home, and that stayed. So then I brought him on home, and then I married the second time. And yeah, oh, his stepfather was a wonderful person.
Okay. Do you remember any books that you read by blacks or about blacks during that time?
Well, I laid this out. This isn't a book, but I laid this out for you. I thought perhaps even now it could be used, instead of using Ethiopia, you could use black there, black people. Now this tells this is that I don't know how I even found it yesterday. I was looking for something else.
Thank God you did.
And I said, I guess I was intended to find that because I haven't seen it for years. And I happened to find it and spent some time looking through it. And I thought, well, instead of saying Ethiopia, if they would just say black people, except when they come to what Ethiopia has done. But I think if they would just say black people have done,
the same meaning.
Yes, it would have the same meaning.
Do you feel that whites discouraged or encouraged education for blacks?
Well, here in Muncie, I don't, you see, Muncie has always been an integrated course. There are always things that happen everywhere. But for myself personally, now I haven't run into a great amount of trouble myself personally. I just have not run into a great amount of trouble.
But any student who wanted to go to school could go to school?
Yes, anyone.
Did teachers spend time with black children who were gifted or who seemed to want to really learn?
I think so, yes. I feel that they were very kind to me. I really have not run into too much.
Do they have a lot of patience?
I think it's up to the person now. That's what I'm saying. Now some children are arrogant and you would feel yourself you wouldn't want to be bothered with them.
What about children with say that was slower than other children were, not quite as eager to learn, but if someone coaxed them or took a little time
well,
with them.
And that again is according to the teacher, whether she has patience. That's what I have found, that it's according to the teacher whether she has patience with these children, either black or white, that are slow.
Most of your teachers had patience with the children?
Most of them, I really did not have any. There was only, I think, in my entire school life here, there was only one teacher that you could feel that she was, I can't think of her name now, but we just had a feeling that she really did not was not interested in black people. There was only one teacher, but I can't remember her name at all. But there was just one teacher that we felt that way about it. I think we all felt that way about it. That the most of them felt it.
Were there any black teachers or principals at that time?
No. You see, as I said the other day, Geraldine Finley was the first black teacher, because I don't think after they worked with me, and I didn't go along with them, I don't think that they worked very hard with anyone else until, even Geraldine Finley, I was just after her all the time. She took over the nursery. I was working in the factory, and we made her director of the nursery. And I just kept after Geraldine. I said, Geraldine, go. She had attended Ball State. And I kept after her. I said, go on and get your degree because we need black teachers in the school. And we just had to just keep after her until she finally went on and got her degree, and they hired her. But that was late. That was during World War One. It was really my fault. I could not blame them for it.
Okay. Did blacks who graduated go on to study beyond high school? You were saying that you left Muncie Normal Institute, which was similar to a high school, and went on to Louisville to study. Did other blacks leave school and go on to school beyond that?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Did any of your children attend college?
See, I only had the one child, and he has always been, well, since he was 7 years old, he's been handicapped.
Were there any black schools that you knew of, colleges, other than the one that you attended in the area? Did blacks know about black colleges where they could go?
I'm trying to think of where I have, because I have really covered the country very well, and I'm trying to think now. Of course, I have been in black colleges, and I'm trying to think of what, because I have really covered the country well, and
how would blacks find out about colleges? Your mother told you. How would other blacks that wanted to go on to school find out about colleges where they could go?
Oh, I don't know, because they knew. I mean, they knew about it because my brother knew, and he had friends that knew a lot of. Well, a lot came up from the South. You see, a lot of people came up here from the South, and he wanted to go to Howard. Now that's where he wanted to go.
You knew of Howard then?
Yes, and my father felt that he could not afford, because he was just a factory worker, and he could not afford to send him to Howard. But John had a friend, and this friend kept telling him he should go to Howard. Well, they felt they could not, but they said that they would send him to Hampton. And he did not want to go to Hampton. He wanted to go to Howard. But I wanted to go to Hampton. I told him that I would go to Hampton with him, and they told me down there that I could teach young children, like kindergarten children and things like that, and make my way to finish my college degree at Hampton. But he did not want to go to Hampton. He just didn't want to go. He wanted to go to Howard, and they could not afford to send him to Howard.
So you knew of Howard and Hampton.
Yes, yes, we knew a lot of black colleges, but those were the two that we were interested in at that time.
Okay. When you were growing up, which black children were most likely to go on to college? Were they children of businessmen or laborers, or just any person who really wanted to go?
Well, just any person, because you see, we do not have many people here. Now, we have had, from time to time, we've had 3 or 4 doctors, but and we've only had one dentist here. And we have not had a large number of that type of people. And I don't think any of their children, I think it's one of their children.
Were children of, say, parents who owned a little business more able to go to school than, say, a person who just worked at a factory?
Yes, yes, they were more able to go, but it just seems like they were not interested.
Okay. And from what you were saying, did black college graduates generally come back to Muncie once they left?
Not too often.
Okay. How did you get to your school?
Well, when we had to take our high school work out to Ball State, they had streetcars. The streetcar only would come to this corner down here.
This is at Highland and Broadway?
Yes, Highland and Broadway. And we would have to walk from wherever we lived to Highland and Broadway to catch the streetcar. And then we would have to transfer and change and take another streetcar on out to Ball State. So many times we just walked. We didn't. We'd rather walk than to waste all that time on them. Because they did not have buses in those early days. Finally, Mr. Duvall, he started a bus himself.
Mr. Duvall started a bus?
Yes, a small bus himself. And
do you remember what year this was?
No, I couldn't tell you what year.
Was it in the 20s or later?
It is in the 20s.
It was? Okay. And this was a school bus or just a bus?
No, just a bus to take people wherever they wanted to go.
Would he charge or he just...
He charged. I don't know. I can't remember what he charged, but he charged.
Okay. How many years of schooling did your parents have?
How many years of school?
Did your parents have? Had your parents gone to school?
Oh, well, my mother had. She had gone down to Louisville, the same school that she sent me. But my father had not.
And your mother had gone to school in Louisville?
Yes.
Had your parents come here from Louisville?
No, they came from Jenks, Kentucky.
Yes.
I was born in Jenks, Kentucky. That was their home.
Were you ever punished in school, or do you remember if punishment in school were any more severe for blacks than it was for whites?
It wasn't for me. It really was not for me. And as I said, during my school years at Longfellow, we only had the one teacher that we felt that was prejudiced.
Would they punish children?
Well, I think she would. But we just felt that she was prejudiced from her actions and all.
What type of things? How would they punish children if they punished them? Anybody, how would they punish them?
Well, of course, in those days, if you did wrong, your parents or anyone else would just turn you across the lap. and because even after we opened the nursery, you see, we could do that for children that we just couldn't control. You see, there are some children you just cannot control, that's all. And when we found one that we just could not control, we would just have to turn across their lap and give it a lick or two. I have one girl she's married now and has children. She lives not far from here now. And we often talk about her because she was more or less spoiled a little bit. And when she would go to the nursery, especially one morning, she went to the nursery before I did, and they were trying to have music, and she didn't want to. She didn't want to. And so the teacher just set her over across in a little chair away from the other children, so they could go ahead and have their music hour. And she sat there, she didn't cry. She just hollered. Just hollered as loud as she could holler to keep the others. And when I went in, the teacher told me, she said, I can't do anything with her. So she's disturbing the other children. She kept hollering and disturbing. So I took her up in my office and I put her on my lap and I talked with her. I told her she had a beautiful voice and it would be so nice for her to go down and to sing with the other children and everything and to have a nice time. So she got down out on my lap and I took hold of her hand and we went down, and as soon as we got out, she started just hollering again. She wasn't crying. She was just hollering as loud as she could. And I just took her back up the office and turned her across my lap. And then he ended the hollering. She came on down and just sit down to eat or something.
So they were allowed to punish when necessary?
Yes, those days we were allowed to punish children if it was necessary. And I think that's the trouble today. I think there are too many children who are not punished. And I think that's why there are so many children that do not pay attention to anyone, and they go out and they rob and they steal and they do, because they were not brought up right when they were young.
Okay. Can you think of any black families where the entire family worked for one white family over the years, or where all of the blacks in one family have always worked for another family, another white family? Can you think of any families where that happened?
No, I couldn't.
Okay. Why did blacks lose their jobs in those times? Why did they lose their jobs?
Why did they lose their jobs? I think more or less because they really wanted to change to another job, to get a better job or something.
So there wasn't much firing then. They just...
Not if they did their work well. Of course, there are people now who do not do their work well, and there's always been people who did not do their work well. And of course, even if you're in contact with a person who does not do a good job, well, yes, I think it's only a natural thing, not a matter of color.
Do you think many, or did many black workers have black bosses?
Well, really, I couldn't say here. I couldn't say now. I really couldn't say about them.
Did you know of any black managers at the factory where you worked?
In the factory?
Persons.
Well, during the war, only one factory that I worked in, there were one or two who were had
managers.
There were one or two in that factory.
Okay. Did blacks own any businesses in Muncie? And can you tell me what they were? Any type of businesses? Shoe shops or food shops?
Oh yes,
or
we have a shoe shop down here now that has been there for years. Armstrong.
Armstrong shoe.
Yes, they have had a shoe shop for years. And then
It's off of North Broadway?
no, what is this next street over? Okay, it's there, but you can't think.
You know the next street over with?
Next street over from Holland?
The next street over here.
Right there. Is that Penn?
Oh yes, it is
I think
there.
it's Penn.
And has it always been there? Was it there in the 20s?
I'm trying to think, because he had a business next door here, and I've tried to think several times of what he was doing, but he had some kind of a business next door.
Do you remember his name?
Let's see.
His name?
His name was Ray Armstrong.
Okay.
He is dead now, and his wife is carrying on. His wife and his son are carrying on the business now.
Okay, he owned this shoe shop and also another little shop
Well,
here?
no, he owns a shoe shop, but and at the time he owned this building next door, but I can't think of what he was doing there. But
Is Mrs. Armstrong still living?
what's that?
Is Mrs. Armstrong still living?
Yes, she is. She and her son have and then of course they have the Parrot's grocery. This is Louis Parrot has a grocery down on Highland Avenue.
This grocery they had during the 20s?
Well, her husband's father had the grocery.
Okay. And do you remember where it was located? Where it was located?
Oh, it has always been in the 2000 block
Of
Highland.
Highland.
And then there's another grocery that's on, you see, these streets used to be first, second, third, fourth, but they've changed them all, you know.
Do you remember the name of it?
Mrs. Wheeler.
Wheeler?
Maybe I could find it. And I'm trying to think of what else.
Were there any fix-it shops or furniture shops or any funeral homes then?
Oh, yes, sir. There, see the Gill Funeral Home in Boston?
Gill?
Gill. And the Faulkner Funeral Home. And there was, I imagine during the 20s, the Patterson Funeral Home was here during the 20s.
Okay. What about restaurants? Any type of place where you could go and entertainment that were owned by blacks?
I'm trying to think. Of course, I know there were restaurants, but I'm just trying to think who had a restaurant, who didn't. Oh, it's hard to remember. We have had, but I can't think right now.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Nice work. Okay. Do you know of any white businesses that blacks might have managed or operated for whites then?
Well, I can't think of any that they operated.
Do you remember any businesses where most of the employers were black?
After you're gone, then will come to me.
Write it down.
Yes. Yes. Of course, there used to be a grocery here on Highland Avenue, and they hired quite a few blacks, and I'm trying to think of the man's name.
Do you have any idea about what block it was in?
But yes, it was. It was the 1400 block.
And this was white owned, but it hired a lot of blacks.
Yes. There used to be another grocery on Penn Street. No, I mean, no, this was Penn Street, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the other street going across? Lowell.
No, right.
Lowell, on Lowell Street.
And this was white owned?
Yes, he owned, and he hired.
But you don't remember his name?
But I don't remember his name. Because that was, some time ago.
Okay, you're doing fine. Okay. Were there any black doctors, dentists, nurses, or midwives during the 1920s?
Yes,
Remember their names?
I'm sure. I'm trying to think when Dr. Smith came. Well, Dr. Brooks was a dentist, so he was here. I know he was here in 1920. And I just couldn't tell when Dr. Smith he'd come on. There was another doctor, but I can't even think of his name. He died.
Was Dr. Smith your doctor?
Yes.
What about nurses or midwives?
Well, of course, they've had a lot of nurses, but when it comes to names,
But they had quite a few nurses, trained nurses, black nurses in the 20s?
Oh, yes.
Where would they learn?
What's that?
Where would they learn nursing?
I don't know. I really well, of course, after Ball State, Ball Hospital, you see, they could be trained out there. And now, Bernice Kaiser is a nurse, but when she came here, I couldn't say.
Bernice Kaiser?
Bernice Kaiser, yes. She was a nurse for a number of years. She just retired, I think, about last year or something like that. But she was a nurse for a number of years. There have been a number of nurses.
Do you remember any midwives?
The nurse that brought James into the floor, her name was Nurse White. I don't remember her first name. But I remember that we always said Nurse White. She brought James into the world. So there's always been nurses here.
Do you remember any midwives in the community?
Oh, I don't know. You see, when you don't have a family, why you don't feel.
Okay. What kinds of foods did you eat generally? What was your basic diet? What would you have for breakfast and lunch, dinner? Would you have 3 meals?
Yes, we used to have 3 meals a day,
Mm-hmm.
but
What would you eat?
that's a regular. I mean, you know, they used to use a lot of food for breakfast. They would have pork chops and everything for breakfast, and biscuit,
Pork
Oh,
chops and biscuits for breakfast?
things like that. It used to be that we used to have for breakfast. But, you know, we kind of got away from that.
Did you grow your own food?
Yes, yes. Most people had gardens.
Did anyone hunt in your family? Did your father hunt? Or did your husband
He
hunt?
didn't hunt. Neither one of them hunted very much, but many men did hunt. But it just happened that they didn't. Neither of those.
Where did you shop for food then? Where would you buy your food?
Well, when they had this grocery here on Highland Avenue, and then they had a grocery here on Penn Street in Highland. They had a grocery on Penn and Highland.
You don't remember the name?
No.
In the early days, how many rooms were in your house, and how many other people lived there in your house?
Well, no other people lived with our family. Except, of course, I had a cousin that my mother raised.
Okay.
And
what was her name?
Her name was Anna.
And is she living now?
No.
But she also lived in the house with you and
Yes.
Anna? Okay. Okay, so that's with
And
you.
then my father had a nephew. His name was Leonard.
Leonard?
Yes. They lived. I mean, he lived with us.
He's also deceased.
What's that?
He's also not. Is he living now?
No.
How long did they live with you?
Well, I don't know, because they both married from our house, and now the cousin, the Anna, my mother took her when she was just a baby. Her mother died, and my mother took her. She was just like a sister to me. She was like a sister. My mother took her when she was a baby and raised her on until she married. And she married, and then she moved. She was the one who moved to Los Angeles. So.
Okay. All right. Okay. So she lived there at least until you finished school.
Oh yes. Yes, she lived there until after James was born.
Okay. And the nephew, how long did he live there? Leonard.
The thing about him is that he was backwards and forwards with one family and then the other, so it's really hard to say. Because his mother died early, and his father had this large family, and one person would take one and keep him a while, and it's just hard to say about the years with him. But he spent a number of years in our home.
How many rooms were in your house?
Well, this house is still standing.
Right. We're going to have to go take pictures.
I would have to, because it's been years since I've been in that house. And I think there must have been about 4 rooms there, I think. I'd be afraid to say, but I think there must have been about 4 rooms.
That was the first house you lived in?
After we came to Muncie. And then where we we moved from there. And I think there were 4 rooms there. I think a living room and 2 bedrooms and a kitchen. I think there must have been about 4 rooms there. And then the house that my father built, let's see, there were 3 bedrooms, a bedroom, dining room, kitchen. There were 6 rooms there.
Did these houses have indoor plumbing? Indoor plumbing?
They didn't have toilets.
Mm-hmm.
No, they didn't have no, because they had coal stoves and they didn't have toilets or anything like that. In fact, you see out in this part, they did not have sewers. They did not have sewers until until after I was married. Well, the article that I gave you told about the sewers, you know, and things.
How did you get your household furnishings when you married? How did you get your household furnishings? Or did you and your husband live with your parents?
Well, when we first married, when we first married, we married in June, and his father died in December.
June. This is Karen Stark's date, July 14th, 1980. Okay. Now, you wanted to tell me about a store?
Yes, back in the 20s, I think it must be the late 20s, I decided to open a grocery store here on Highland Avenue in Macedonia. I don't know whether you've noticed, there's a kind of a recreation center. Men have a place up there on the corner. Well, that was the building that
And what did you call it?
I tried and tried to think. And then the strange thing about it is
on the Good News Caravan. So bring a friend and join in on the fun at the Good News Caravan this morning at the Bewley Center at 10:30. They'll all come down.
The strange thing about it was that I had forgotten all about this grocery store, but I opened it, and it was very successful for a while because it's more or less in the center part of Whiteland. But then the Depression came on, which I was not expecting, and so many men got out of work. And they would come to the grocery, and one family especially, a very large family, and you really felt sorry for them because the father was out of work, and he would come and he would stand, he would just hate to ask me. Finally he would ask me if he could get some things and pay for them later. And I finally had so much of that to contend with that I had to give up the grocery store. But not too long ago, I found some little bills that I had put out, you know, with the prices of things on. And last night I looked and looked, and of course you can never find anything when you want them.
Yes.
Because it was, you couldn't hardly believe it now, the price of things at that time. And I can't remember the price on those things, and that's why I tried last night to find it. But I have so many places to put things that you just don't have time to go into each of these places. In the attic, I have 2 outlets into my attic. And both of those places are full.
Were you operating the shop by yourself?
Yes.
You didn't have any part-time help or anything?
Oh, yes. Yes. I had a very young man. He helped me, and then he would deliver groceries for me.
Do you remember his name?
Yeah. His name was Herbert Goins.
Is he still living in Muncie?
No, he's been dead for some time.
Did you tell me the name of the store? Did you name it?
I don't think about it. I tried last night to think. And I just couldn't think of. And then the Parrot grocery, you know. Well, my parents were the cause of the Parrots coming to Muncie. Because Mrs. Parrot was born and raised down in Gent, Kentucky, where we came from. And Mr. Parrot came there to teach school. They had a little one-room school house. I'll never forget that because I was too young to go to school. But he stayed at my parents' home, and I was one of these very active and bad young ones. And he would take me on down to school with him and set me on the front row and give me a book. And I would think I was at school. I'll never forget that. And so then he met Mrs. Parrot there. He was from a small town in Indiana, and I can't even remember the name of the town. It was a small town in southern Indiana. And he came down to Gent to teach and met Mrs. Parrot, and then they were married. And then they went back to his home for a while. And after we came to Muncie, why, then they, of course, my family always corresponded with them, and they told them about Muncie. And when we came here, you see, the gas boom was on, and so Mr. Parrot decided to come on. They decided to come on to Muncie, and he opened a little grocery store, and right next to his house here on Highland Avenue, he lived on the corner, and then he opened a little grocery store right next to it, and he operated that as long as he lived, and then he turned it over to his son, and his son then built the grocery store across the street. But that was how the Parrot grocery was started. And how were you and, to your knowledge, Mr. Perry, able to get a place and to get the land? Did you rent it, or how did you go about opening, finding your location, getting your stuff? There had been a white man had a grocery store there, and he was. Was this where you were? No, I didn't work for him. Parrot was. No, but he had. We were friends, and he had a grocery store there, and a lot of people traded there, a lot. And he decided to give up the grocery store. I can't remember now why, but he was going to give it up, and so then I decided to take the grocery over, and have a place of my own. And we did very well at first, but then the Depression came on, and men got out of the work, and you would let people have things, and they would think they were going to be able to pay for them, and then they just weren't. And I couldn't go on that way. Do you remember approximately how long the store was open? How long it was in business? Oh, it was. because I had really forgotten about the grocery store, but it was several years, 4 or 5 years, something like that, that I operated that grocery store, and I had really forgotten all about it. And I had hoped last night that I would find those bills. I was looking for something at one time, and I came across them, and I thought I knew where I had put them, but when I went to look for them, I couldn't find them. And because I thought it would help you to know the cost, the prices on things at the time. But I'll find them sometime when I'm not looking for them. That's what always happens.
Was your stock strictly grocery, or did you sell any other
No,
household
just groceries. Just groceries. And it was a very good location. And we got along fine at first. But then, not knowing the Depression was coming on, and it came on, and people got out of work, and I couldn't.
Were most of your customers black or white, or was it fairly well mixed?
Well, it was mixed for different people who lived in Whiteley. Because the man that owned the grocery store lived across the street, and they still lived there for a while afterwards. And so it was mixed, and anyone come in that and of course that made us, my father and mother, responsible for the Parrots coming and opening the Parrots grocery store that is now still.
So it was after you opened yours that they encouraged
No,
Parrots
they
to
opened
come?
theirs before. But mine was really a better location than theirs, because it's near the center part of Whiteley, you see. And it was really a better location, and then some of the things that they had it in stock, some of the things he left, because we were very good friends. And so I think if the Depression hadn't come along, why, we would have been able to have made it, but too many people got out of work, and you just would feel bad not helping them when they come, and they would think, well, they were going to find something and come back and pay you, and it just didn't turn out like that. And then there was another person. I expect someone has talked with you about Mr. Benson.
Mr. Benson? Who was Mr. Benson? I don't recall him.
Well, when we came to Muncie, he had a barber shop and a place on the edge of what is McCullough Park. It wasn't a park then, but he had a barber shop on the edge of what is McCullough Park down there, and he really did a wonderful business. And then children would come and play, because that was a big wide open space there. And then on the weekends he would have, even after the park, they made a park out of it, but he would have food to sell. He had a little place down there that he had food to sell, and he was there for a long time. He was there when we came to Muncie, and he stayed quite a long time, and was very, very successful. And that was one of the things that I thought of, that they have tried several businesses out here, but his was very successful, but they moved away from Muncie. He got to the place he wasn't very well, and his wife wasn't very well, and they decided to give up. But they were here for years, and really helped a lot of young people. He was interested in young people. He was always interested in young people, and he helped a lot of I tried to call Dr. Sorensen, but I didn't get her.
Mm-hmm.
Have you met her?
No, I haven't met her. I gave her a call 1 week before last, and I wasn't able to get her.
I wonder if she's in town. Because I was wanting to talk about, we were in a group the other week, and they were talking about how the Muncie Nursery started.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sometimes people do not know all of the details.
Mm-hmm.
And there were 2 professors out to Ball State that really brought the idea of the need for a day nursery. And they talked about it for a long time before we had an organization out here in Whiteley.
Mm-hmm.
I think I showed you the clipping of the organization.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they talked about the need for a day nursery.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot remember the 2 teachers' names. That's why I tried to get old Dr. Sorensen, because I think perhaps she would. But some people get the wrong ideas, but it was 2 teachers out to Ball State that really brought up the idea first, and they discussed it with some of us who belong to this Whiteley Council
Mm-hmm.
to see whether we felt there was a need. And then after we were interested in it, then they went on, they just kept on until they really got the nursery organized and going. And I wanted to know from Dr. Sorensen, I'm sure she could remember those teachers, the names of those teachers,
Mm-hmm.
because Dr. Sorensen helped out at the nursery a lot. She was always down there giving us advice and helping out at the nursery. But I haven't been able to get her. But I found a strange thing. What is it? A book to take advantage more or less of the young people. I mean, it seems to me that they do not have the patience and try to help the young people like they used to. I think they used to try to make them see that it was necessary not to do the things that they're doing today. And of course you knew that there would be more or less policemen around ever so often and everything, and I think that was very helpful, because we were not afraid to be out at night at all or anything. We just went any place we wanted to, and we're never afraid to be out at night. But now, you're just afraid. You're afraid in your home, and you're afraid outside, and you're just almost live in fear. But it is to not be like that at all.
Do you feel there were any more policemen in the black community than there were in the white community?
Oh, I don't think there were any more.
Were they able to, in case of emergencies or anything, to get there as quickly as they should have in most cases?
Well, yes, you see, there's a station down here on the corner, and it's been there for quite a while. And I don't think we have much trouble with that.
And to your knowledge, were there any incidents of police brutality then?
Well, not to my knowledge. I mean, there could have been, but it was not anything that I knew about. Of course, we had one disturbance. I expect someone has told you about that there was a boy that people became angry with and wanted to lynch him or do something to him.
Here in Muncie?
Yes, That, I need to know it. name because I know he ended up in a house down here right off of Broadway on Penn Street, that large house. And he got away from them. But it seemed like that he had some affair of some kind with a white girl, and
these were policemen that were after him?
Yes, they were after him. But some way or another he got into that house and they weren't able to catch him. I mean, they weren't able to do anything to him.
Where was the local jail located?
Where is it?
Where was it then?
Well, I think it was in the same place it is now.
Where?
It's well, almost across the street. Have you ever been to Action? To the Action office here?
Is it on Main Street?
No, on, I was trying to think of 225 North High Street.
225 North High?
225 North High.
That's where the Action place is?
That's it. And the jail is across the street from it. So it's in the 200 block on North High Street. They have a board meeting tomorrow night.
When persons were arrested, were they taken to this jail?
Yes.
And how long did they stay there?
Well, it was according to whatever they had done.
Would they have people working on the chain gang thing? How did they punish them or whatever if they say were arrested for something, a minor charge or something, or if they were sentenced?
Well, I really don't think that. I don't think they. It used to be that the sentences were as heavy as they are now. I really don't think the sentences. Of course, there was not nearly so many things, going on. But I don't think the sentences were as heavy and as long as they are now. I don't think so.
Well, who defended blacks if they got in trouble?
What's that?
Who defended blacks if they got in trouble?
Well, you see, at one time, we had a lawyer here.
A colored lawyer?
Yes. I'm trying to think of what it is. That's terrible. Yes, we had a black lawyer here. And
was this during the 20s?
Well, it was a long time ago, so it must have been the 20s or 30s. Because we've been fussing ever since about not being able to get one here. And see, we've had a number of colored doctors here. And they seem not to want to come to Muncie.
Well, would the black community support them once they got here?
It used to be, yes. Dr. Smith, he had a wonderful trade. And Dr. Braden, of course, he stayed here as long as he lived. He died here. Dr. Braden had a wonderful, they really did. And I can't understand why some young doctor will not come here. We have asked, because every once in a while I think one comes out to Ball State to be trained. Yeah. But they've never been able to get, but we've had Dr. Smith, Dr. Braden, but there was even before they came along, there was a colored doctor here. I can't think of these names.
Is that Dr. Brooks?
Well, yeah, Dr. Brooks was a dentist. Yes, he was here, for years and years. I met him before he even came to Muncie. He was in Marion. And we more or less insisted on him coming to Muncie because we needed one so badly here. And he came.
I spoke to his wife the other day.
What's that?
I said I spoke to his wife the other day.
Oh, yes. Yes. He was a wonderful person.
Do you remember what street the colored lawyer's office was on?
Well, see, Dr. Smith's office was on Madison Street, on the corner of Madison and First. I think Madison First. It is kind of high. It's kind of high up. You had to go up steps to get to his office. There's another building there now. And then Dr. Braden's office was on 2nd Street then. And then I'm trying to think, we had a doctor here long before that. And I can't think of his name. That we'd had, he was here and
Dr. Cooper?
No, this man was he was so very active in the community. He was that makes me so mad.
McMorris?
What's that?
McMorris?
McMorris, yes.
Okay.
Yes, McMorris. He was a splendid doctor. And they all, I can't understand why we cannot get a colored doctor here now. Because we needed a doctor and a lawyer. And I don't suppose I can find the letter. But we have last year wrote down to try to find if we couldn't find someone, that would be interested in coming. But
do you remember where the lawyer's office was, or what street his office was on?
His office was on, let's see, Elm Street. I think near Main on Elm Street.
And did he specialize in any kind of law, or he just...
No, he just...
General law?
And we were very happy to have him.
And
I
then,
can't understand now why we just cannot get anyone to come to Muncie.
at the rally Saturday, someone brought up that there had never been any black jurors here in Muncie.
A black on the jury.
Have there ever been any blacks on the juries here in Muncie?
That have served on the jury.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now that I can't say. I mean, I can't remember. Black serving. And then I found, now, I can only talk from a personal standpoint.
Yes, ma'am.
Because the relationship that I had with white people was just like it is now. I didn't have. Now I was talking with a friend of mine that you have been to her house, I think.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Did she tell you about that?
I didn't interview her, but another student did. I met her at church.
And we were talking about that Saturday, but I couldn't remember. She said that they, of course, no, I went to Longfellow School when it was first built, because Schaefer Chapel, the first year that I went to school, was up here where the Schaefer Chapel Church is. And then they were building the Longfellow School. But she said that, of course, she is 4 years older than I am. Of course, she was in a higher grade. And she said that they had them sit in the back of the room. But I couldn't remember that part of it, because the thing that I remember is that there was a white boy in my class, and I'd have to pass his house every day. And usually in the mornings when I'd be going to school, why, he'd made it his business to be out there waiting, and we'd walk on to school together. And we sat near one another in school, because such a strange thing came up. He turned out, well, he was the postmaster, and it ended up being postmaster. And during the war, I was working at a factory during the war, and a woman, her husband worked at the post office, and she happened to ask me, said her husband had talked about, his name was Bernard Razor, and she said, I think Bernard Razor used to live out in Whiteley. Do you know him? So I laughed. I said, do I know him? Yes, I know. I was just doing, you know. I said, he was my boyfriend. And her husband, she went home and told her husband. And her husband told him. And the next time I went in the post office, why, he was back there, and he said, called me and said, will you come back in my office? And I thought, what in the world is he on this office for? And I went on back there, and he began to laugh. And he said, I heard you told about us being your boyfriend when you were little. The trouble to have is within the person yourself, how you accept people. Because I have really, I have had very little experience with real prejudice here in Muncie. My very best friends yet are white. I really, they're the very best friend that I have. That if anything comes up, that I really had to have some help or something done for me, why, I think she is the one that would be the one I would call on. Because she never, even she's a teacher, they were unkind to her because, I think because she is friendly with black people.